Some of my friends ask me what I have against fantasy. I really don't have anything against fantasy, but I do prefer science fiction. A lot of people think they go hand in hand, but I really prefer science fiction. To examine this, to give you a little bit more of an explanation of why I like science fiction more than fantasy, let's go to a couple definitions. I was at a recent book launching event for Robert J. Sawyer, and here's his definition of the difference between science fiction and fantasy.
It is a hard science fiction novel, as all of my novels are. That doesn't mean that the science is difficult. And nor does it mean that the science is only the hard sciences, physics, chemistry, engineering, as opposed to the soft sciences of sociology, economics, and so on. It means that whatever science there is in the book that is real science is accurate. And whatever science that's in the book that's extrapolated science is a reasonable extrapolation. It's not just pulled out of thin air. It's something that really could happen. To me, that's the distinction between science fiction and fantasy. Science fiction is stories about things that plausibly might happen. And fantasy is stories about things that never could happen. They are, in fact, very different. They both take place in realms that are not our here and now. In most cases, although I have written science fiction novels set in the present day, A Legal Alien is an example. It's not historical fiction, it's set in 1998. They're different genres. They're different genres. Science fiction, as I say, is not obligated to give you the most obvious answer. In fact, who would want to read it if it gave you the most obvious answer? It wants to give you the most provocative, the most interesting, the most entertaining answer that can't be dismissed. Because if it can be dismissed, then it's fantasy. It's not science fiction.
After hearing this explanation, I found a quote online that seems to reflect what Robert J. Sawyer is saying. While science fiction draws on and extrapolates from what we know about reality and science, fantasy invents what does not and likely could not exist in our reality. From Brandy Reisenweber. I tend to like things that are extrapolated, that ask that question, what if? I find that fantasies don't necessarily go to that what if area that sort of extends or extrapolates. It's more of a myth, of a fairy tale, of a telling a story either for just entertainment, for the story for its own sake, or it can be an analogy, even metaphor. It feels to me like you travel further with science fiction, that there are some awe-inspiring discoveries to be had there, that there's a progression to this what-if question. And sometimes science fiction brings that awe, that feeling of discovery, that shift in terms of understanding our world and the world of the story within. I want to give you one more quote. This is a more academic version of a definition for science fiction. It comes from a scholar named Darko Suvin from 1972. Darko Suvin defined science fiction as a literary genre whose necessary and sufficient conditions are the presence and interaction of estrangement and cognition, and whose main formal device is an imaginative framework alternative to the author's empirical environment. By cognition, Suvin appears to mean the seeking of rational understanding, and by estrangement, something akin to, I won't try to say this author's name, but from 1948 says, a representation which estranges is one which allows us to recognize its subject, but at the same time make it seem unfamiliar. Perhaps the most important part of Suvin's definition, and the easiest with which to agree, is the emphasis he puts on what he and others call a novum, a new thing, some difference between the world of the fiction and what Suvin calls the empirical environment, the real world outside. This novum, in some of the best science fiction I've read, produces a paradigm shift in understanding. A new level is attained within the fiction. And other times, it's just a good story. Now, I'm sure you can make a lot of arguments here. Some of the far-flung science fiction that there is out there really seems a little bit more like fantasy. And they do, at times, seem to blend in their storytelling. I'm curious, do you have a preference between science fiction and fantasy? Can you state why that is? What is it about the genre that you like that makes it more appealing to you? I'd love to hear your answers below. Until next time, keep reading.